Kundalini, Kundalini, Kundalini. I actually heard it was very, very dangerous yoga to practice.
Yeah. I'm really scared that I'm going to be like this in class. It's too early.
I'm just stuck in bed, no more than 10 seconds from the toilet.
Why we've been so quiet on social media?
Namaste.
Namaste.
What's the biggest challenge you can think of whilst traveling? Well, this was something that came up to our heads recently when we realized we've only got 1 month left to go in India after almost 6 months of being here. How can we end one of the most important and amazing traveling journeys we've ever been on? Especially after we've just traveled South India on a tuk-tuk, which is definitely one of the biggest challenges we've done. How can we top that? It was actually tremendous pressure to actually think about this sort of thing. So that's when I came up with an idea, probably the most craziest idea that I've ever come across, mental, that I said to Janine, that sparked off a chain of events that have changed our lives forever. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Most people, when they think about challenges, they think outwardly, mountain climbing, bungee jumping, skydiving, that sort of thing. And yes, definitely these things came up into our head. In fact, when I asked you guys as well, you left comments on our YouTube video suggesting those exact same things, that's exactly what we would be doing. But this actually made me realize that we could be doing those things for the rest of our life, chasing mountains, chasing the next extreme sport and all that sort of stuff. But the greatest adventure is going inward. In fact, we obviously, of course, are facing a mental health crisis, a global pandemic of mental health problems. It really is something that us in the West are quite scared of doing, is going inward. So that's when I came up with the idea. So one day, sat in Goa, and obviously the easiest thing to do before leaving home is to spend the rest of our time laying on a beach in Goa. But I did at this point turn to Janine and said, is it possible for two complete amateurs and beginners at yoga to become qualified teachers at yoga, to train to become qualified teachers in just 1 month before going home to the UK? Of course we're in India and anything is possible in this country. And she turned around and laughed, and of course what happened next sparked off a chain of events that became the rest of our lives. We faced some very, very dark times, lots of twists and turns, some upset, some heartbreak, some physical problems. We went into it thinking that we wanted something, but what we actually got was completely different. It is what we needed, it's not what we wanted. We simply had the intention to do something very, very crazy and very, very out there, and it became one of the greatest adventures of our lives. What comes next is what happened in the 4 weeks leading up to today when I'm making this video. If you're ever thinking about going on a spiritual journey or coming to India or going on a yoga journey or becoming a yogi, then please watch. This is what happened when two novices, a married couple in their late 30s and 40, tried to become qualified yoga teachers in the Himalayas in India. We are just about to embark on our biggest challenge in India so far. So there Janine and I stood outside our home for the next 4 weeks, the World Peace Yoga School, an ashram in every sense of the word. An ashram, if you didn't know, is where people go, almost like monastery-like conditions, to intensely deepen their yoga practice. So intense that you've got to stay over because usually it involves waking up very early in the morning and going to sleep quite late at night as well. So that's exactly what this place was. 60 to 70 people, all living under one roof, sleeping, eating together and training to become yoga teachers. A very big challenge within itself, especially for two people who are very independent and travel full-time and love their freedom. However, we know the crack by now, so we went headfirst straight into it. And we greeted firstly by Guru Vishnu, the founder of the place. Long hair, beard, sort of someone straight out of the 60s, brilliant, instantly lovable, likable man who is eccentric as well, and he gave us such a warm welcome.
Welcome to World Peace Yoga School. I have established a very beautiful yoga ashram in Rishikesh, and you are most welcome to practice all kinds of 200, 300, 500 hours, many style of yoga in Rishikesh, India.
And then we were shown to our room, The room has Himalayan views, was absolutely fantastic. Not without its quirks, of course, this is India, but the bed was extremely hard. You know, like we probably would be more comfortable sleeping on the floor. It was that hard. Definitely the hardest bed that we found in India so far. All that to one side, we were told to dress completely in white and head to the roof, the yoga shala, where we'd be studying for yoga for our opening ceremony. This was the point where we realized how much trouble we had landed in. It was a very, very intense thing that happened next. We were all there, 60 to 70 strangers, not knowing each other, with a fire, a big fire in a bamboo hall, enclosed bamboo hall, which is remarkable. And we were involved in a very sort of ancient ritual, it would appear. It was being led by a guy with a turban, or a head dressing on and a beard, and lots of chanting going on in Sanskrit, which is the obviously one of the most ancient languages in the whole world, the original languages, the language of sound, and lots of chanting, lots of singing, lots of dancing. It was so intense. I'm not sure how much I enjoyed it because it was so sort of out there. It was very, very hippie. And yeah, very, very intense. Anyway, that lasted for quite a while. All that to one side, we then sat down cross-legged, which we ended up would be the start of us sitting cross-legged for the next 4 weeks on the ground, hard wooden floor. And each of us were told to go around in turn and stand up in front of the 70 people and say where we're from and what we were doing here. It was going around person to person to person to person, and we noticed something very strange. And then it came round to us, and you know, I stood up and said, we're here from England, and we're to do the multi-style 200-hour intense teachers training course. Multi-style means Ashtanga and Hatha, which is what, if you go to a yoga class in the West, you would end up probably in one of those two, which is the bending yourself into all crazy positions. That's what we thought the challenge would be. And so we stood up to it. But what was really interesting was we were one of the only people that stood up and said that we were there to do multi-style, which really shocked me because I thought that's what everyone was going to do. Instead, one by one, people stood up and said, I'm here to do 200-hour Kundalini. Kundalini teachers training, Kundalini. And the only time I've heard of Kundalini before was briefly where it came across in my sort of when I've been reading books and stuff. And as far as yoga's concerned, I was put off it instantly because I actually heard it was very, very dangerous yoga to practice. The reason being is because Kundalini, if you didn't know what it was, is basically a dormant energy that lay at the base of every single human being's spine. Science calls this energy something else, as you know, a big long name. Ancient Indian science calls it Kundalini, and they refer to it as like a serpent. It's obviously not a snake, but they refer to it as a serpent because it sort of comes up like this, up your spine, all the way through the chakras, every single one of the 7 chakras. Each time it goes up, the further it goes up the spine, it lightens up parts of the brain that are currently, once again, dormant. As you know, we use a very small portion of our brain. This, by doing certain ancient rituals and practices, lights up the brain as this energy, this Kundalini energy, travels up the spine. The reason why I read it was so dangerous before this was because it's called a Kundalini awakening. You probably heard of that. When people have Kundalini awakenings, if you Google it or YouTube it, it looks like someone is having an epileptic fit. Basically, it's like what is described as an electric shock shooting up the spine. It lasts for quite a while and looks like someone has been possessed by an evil spirit, shaking about uncontrollably and what have you. Not something that I'd ever sort of fancied doing. So instantly put off it. Of course, with it rising up and opening up the parts of the brain have laid dormant for all of our lives and quickly flashing on. And then when it comes back down again, it's also just as dangerous, or so I read, because once you've seen these things, how could you unsee it? Once you feel these things, how could you unfeel it? You starting to become aware of a lot more of human potential than we've been led to believe through our lives. So it's a very ancient ritual, very ancient practice to be done, and it's something that I was definitely put off doing. However, with all of these people standing up, we soon realised that the World Peace Yoga School was one of the best places to come to learn to teach Kundalini in the whole of India. So I started thinking the way that I do, deeply about this sort of thing. Logic goes out of my head all the time when it comes to decisions, and I go with my feeling about things. Was the reason Jean and I, in this space, at this time, led to this school for this opportunity to learn something that's going to change our lives in the strangest and craziest way possible, that I never in my wildest dreams in all 37 years of being alive thought was going to happen. And was this the reason why we were here? And so I spoke to Janine about this, and we both quickly made the decision to try and switch from our multi-style to learn to become Kundalini teachers, something that I knew very, very little about, but was assured that being done in the right way with practice is a way of invoking that energy, using body energies, the prana which is called, and done carefully will still be very, very powerful, but done in a lot more careful manner. So that's what we decided to do. So later that evening, I went to the administration part of the ashram and asked very, very deeply and very, very kindly, I think we're brought here for a very deeper reason. Can we change from multi-style last minute to Kundalini? In which they turned round and said, yes. So late that evening we got our schedule that would be our teacher training schedule for the next month, and my God, it was a shock.
Oh my gosh, it is 4:20 in the morning and it is ridiculously early. We have to be upstairs for 5 o'clock, and it's just, it makes me feel so sick getting up at this time in the morning. The only time I've ever had to do it is catching a flight. I've never done it voluntarily like this before. It's too early. I'm so tired.
So that's what we did. It was very, very hard and very, very dark in those first few days. I don't think we ever got used to it, to be honest with you. It's a very, very difficult time in the morning to get up. But it comes, the reason behind it is you get up at that time, you do all of your practice before the day gets involved with it. So all of your duties and the things that you've got to do in a day in and day out basis. Either way, we were like zombies on those first few days. The first thing up there was sadhana, and it could either be meditating in a dark room until the sun comes up, or a lot of the time it was doing something quite active, dynamic meditation, moving whilst meditating in quite dynamic, fast ways. Or it could even be doing 108 sun salutations, one after another, which is a hell of a workout. It's a hell of a challenge. If you ever wanted a challenge, do 108 sun salutations in one go. The next thing after that would be Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga are the ancient techniques and tools used to help clear the channels so that the Kundalini can rise. And I've actually heard of Kriya Yoga before. Kriya is something that I read about in something called The Autobiography of a Yogi. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it twice. It's a big book, and it's about a guy from India, long time ago, who achieved sort of sainthood. He became enlightened, and he did it through the use of Kriyas. It's the first time I heard about it, so I was shocked to see Kriyas on the menu at this yoga school, but really excited as well. I was excited because in this book I learned that Kriyas are so powerful that you need to be initiated into them by a guru, and that guru will deem the time right to show you that Kriya. And so I was really shocked to actually be in a situation where we were about to be taught them. It just so happened that our teacher, Pravinji, was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant Kriya teacher. He's been passed down this information through his three gurus, and then very, very fortunately onto us. And I feel very, very grateful that we got to learn from such a masterful person and such powerful techniques. And we learned very, very quickly that this was going to be a 100% practice class with almost no written down things at all. So we were learning through practice, and it was very, very powerful, very, very quickly. The thing after that was mantra and pranayama. Mantra being chanting Sanskrit being one of the oldest languages in the world. Sanskrit words contain energies. When you say them, they release these energies. They're energies encapsulated in word form. So just by saying these things, you're bringing about certain energies within you and the universe around you. And so that's the reason why you go to temples and stuff, they're singing all of these songs, is to do this. And it's a very, very powerful technique. Mantras alone can make a Kundalini rise. So that's what we did. So we did them rigorously every single day by a fantastic teacher who had an incredible voice. So every morning we sang for an hour these ancient songs, and they were, to be honest with you, it was a highlight of the day, I think, for everybody. He played the harmonium and the drum sometimes whilst we did it, and it was just beautiful. Really, really nice way to have when the sun came up.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Following that, we did pranayama. Pranayama, similar to Kriya, is just using breath work to clear the channels around the body so that to help with the Kundalini awakening. Very, very, very powerful ancient techniques that you can learn as a tool forever. And they're very quite easy to remember as well. Once you know them and you practice them, they're very, very good. So this was another thing that we did. And once again, felt very grateful now to understand that the teachers at this yoga school, and I'm not just saying this as well, I really wouldn't, because I tell you if they weren't, were brilliant, masterful teachers who not only taught this stuff, but practiced it every day themselves. And you could see it with a twinkle in their eye. Very, very, very good teachers. Following this was breakfast. Breakfast always, every day, was porridge made with water and bananas or some other fruit. Very, very simple breakfast. They always had herbal Ayurvedic tea on hand as well, so you could always have a non-caffeine as well. So it was a whole month of no caffeine, herbal teas, and of course no milk and what have you as well. Following breakfast was a Kundalini class. This Kundalini class was teaching us how we could put our own Kundalini class together. We did it every day. It was the most frantic class that you would ever think about having in a yoga hall, ever. It was crazy, mental. If you didn't feel awake after 5 minutes of being in there, then there's something wrong with you. It was so intense, involved a lot of screaming, a lot of shouting, and then followed by relaxation, and then always at the end of the class with ecstatic dance, energetic dance as well, which is something I struggled with as well, because usually, being a British bloke, you need alcohol to dance. So I never really got used to it, but I definitely felt the benefits of this practice, and it was a very, very energetic lesson that we did every day. Yoga philosophy, the reason why we're doing everything that we're doing, it was very, very important. We needed it to join all of the dots. It was once again with a very, very good teacher, and what was remarkable in that was Janine saying how much she enjoyed it. This is Janine's probably first ever academic class that she's ever enjoyed. And it was beautiful to see that. And she continues to enjoy yoga, Indian philosophy now, learning how all of its ancient practice was passed down and the science behind everything that we're doing. Everything backed up with this ancient science. It was magical.
It's so cool. We're going to the Ganges today for our philosophy lesson. So we're going to sit down by the river and chill out. Not too much though, because it's still a class, but he's going to teach us about yoga philosophy. It's going to be brilliant. I'm so excited.
If you drink the Ganga water, all your pain, suffering, all your stress, all your disease will go away. Wow. That's why Ganga river is very powerful.
Anatomy, alignment, adjustment, hatha yoga, self-practice, day in, day out. What made the situation probably a little bit more difficult, especially around the start, was that we shared a class with some very, very big personalities, very, very nice people that turned out to be very good friends in the end. But yoga teachers, people who've been studying yoga and practicing yoga for a very, very long time. It made Janine and I feel very isolated at the very start because we were hugely on an amateur level, and we did make us think, what the hell have we gotten ourselves into here? What made the situation better was that most of us were very new to whilst they knew yoga, they didn't know Kundalini. So in those first few days, it was all very, very new to us, and we were practicing something that we'd never done before. Kundalini, when you're practicing it day in, day out, it starts having an effect on you, which I'm going to explain right now. Emotions start coming to the surface, and it would not be unusual to see people in the class burst out into tears randomly during the practice. Very, very strange to see and to witness. It was something that we were all going through. I think it happened to everybody, some sort of emotional experience. I had a really, really strange thing happen to me. I'm going to explain that in a second. But Janine, God bless her, really went through a hard time at one point. We were doing some practice, and then she had a random anxiety attack. Came out of nowhere. She was shaking and crying. She had to go back to the room, in fact, and miss the rest of the day's sort of classes. Obviously, I went down there to go and check up on her, make sure she's all right, and it turns out that she was in a bit of a mess. And the Kundalini and Kriya had brought something up in her that she didn't expect. And thankfully, at the ashram, there's a lot of people from a lot of different sort of expertises, and there was someone there who worked with trauma and anxieties. And it turns out that Janine has been living with anxiety for the majority of her life, which is, I knew that she was we know that she worries a lot. She can get quite down sometimes. She's very, very gentle, lovely person, very, very kind, but she seems to take the world on the shoulders, and she just accepted that as part of her personality, to be honest with you. This person identified it as Janine's been living with quite serious anxiety for a very, very long time, and she needs to do something about it. She said it probably stems from a trauma or multiple traumas, which is difficult for Janine to accept because she's had a very good upbringing she's got a very nice family, and they have not gone without anything. So this was very, very strange for Janine to hear, but trusted it. You know, it had to be this, because what else could it be? It was something serious that we needed sorting out. So we spoke out some things and said to Janine, can you think of anything that could be traumatic in your life? And she went to bed anyway, couldn't think of anything. When she woke up that morning, a trauma floated right to the surface. If you don't know what trauma is, it's and I'm very, very sorry, I've got very little understanding of it myself, but it's where something bad that's happened in your life, traumatic that's happened, is like a memory, and it's a memory encapsulated, and can cause all sorts of problems in your body, even disease, and it's something traumatic that happened. It could be something as simple as having a pet die when you were younger, being bullied at school, lots of different things. It's not just when you're younger, it can happen through adult life as well. Anyway, this trauma from Janine's school life came up and came to the surface and just popped. And she had buried it for such a long time. It's the first time she'd thought about it since she was a little girl at school. And just having that trauma float to the surface, although it was very upsetting for Janine, made Janine feel happier. I can't explain it. It basically started off a chain of events that have led to where we are now. The more we practiced Kundalini, the more we practiced the Kriya, the more these traumas came to the surface, these things that she'd buried. And every single time that they did, she became lighter and physically changed. So much so that people were stopping her in the street. I'm no word of a lie. Over the course of 2 or 3 days, around those first few days when it was happening, people were stopping her and saying how vibrant she looked and how well she looked. And this is sometimes they were strangers, sometimes they're just people from our course who didn't know her before. They just thought she looked really nice that day, and it was so beautiful to see. and I'm very, very grateful to the whole process. I'm grateful to the person who identified the trauma, helped her identify the trauma and the anxiety, and of course, Kriya and Kundalini. It was one of the huge benefits that we saw straight away from doing it. Something strange happened to me as well. So what happened with me was that I was really enjoying the Kriya practice. I was feeling some massive benefits from it. Some of the Kriyas that we were doing as we were working through certain chakras felt almost like we'd taken a psychoactive drug, and you'd come out of it after relaxation, and you come after it and it felt incredible. Like, all I can explain is it takes you onto a different sort of energy plane where, you know, you used to the energy that you wake up in the morning, that's a really lovely energy. The energy from coffee, the energy after you've been to the gym and done a workout feels great. This is like a different level altogether. As I said, it just feels just like taking a drug. It lasts for ages, it feels amazing. This is something that you're supposed to practice day in, day out, and have your life be that energy constantly. It was wonderful, and I'm really, really looking forward to continuing practicing this. However, it does take its toll on the body. It does take its toll on your energies and your mind. And so the Kriya teacher, becoming concerned with how many Kriyas we're doing day in, day out, taught us a technique that is to do with this chakra here, which is the third eye chakra, and it involves gazing at a candle. First time I've ever gazed at a candle. I'm not going to go right into the specifics of the technique that we do it, but the reason why you do it mainly is because doing all of the Kriya and Kundalini work can make you ill mentally for a short amount of time. It can have effects of your mental health anyway, and effects on your body. As we've seen with Janine, with the anxiety coming to the surface and stuff like that, it's not negative ultimately, but it does bring everything to the surface. So this technique is to stop those things from having a huge detrimental effect to you, or making you become really ill. So by doing certain techniques, you can reduce it down to almost nothing. And one of them was candle gazing. So we did this candle gazing exercise, and it literally involves staring at a candle for a very long period of time without blinking. I did this, it felt brilliant. The practice was incredible. It was in a dark room. But after it, my body completely shut down. Bit by bit, my body started to ache loads, like really, really ache. And then I started to become sort of sick with how much the pain was hurting me. So I went to bed, and when I laid there, I started getting food poisoning symptoms within my digestive system as well. Literally, my whole body shut down. I felt awful. I felt awful. I thought I was dying. Bizarrely, that evening, so I was in bed all day, I missed classes all day. That evening, randomly, I felt fantastic again. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I stood up, the food poisoning symptoms had gone, my body aches had gone from all over, my fever, my nausea, everything had gone. I went downstairs, I even ate a meal and felt fantastic. I felt better than I did before the candle gazing. It was bizarre. I was not the only person to have experienced that. Someone else in the class had the exact same experience happen to them as well. Other people had different experiences on different levels as well. This just shows how powerful what we were learning was, and for it not to be taken sort of lightly. But we have amazing teachers. They knew exactly what was coming, when it was coming, and they took us through the whole process, and it made it less daunting and less scary. So whilst all of this was going on, Janine was doing bloody yoga headstands. Yes, Janine could do a headstand now, the king of all asanas. And we were getting so much better at yoga in general. Yoga asanas, postures, Kundalini, Kriya, everything. We were practicing it day in, day out. But were we good enough? Are we good enough to become yoga teachers? That was the real question. One of the reasons why World Peace Yoga School is one of the best in India and the world is because, not only because the teachers are so bloody good, and they are so good, it's also that they Yoga Alliance certified, which means that a qualification from this school means you can teach yoga anywhere in the world should you get through it. So the tests and the examinations and the assessments were quite rigorous. Leading up to that final week, those final few days, we were getting quite nervous, but you know what? We were really enjoying Rishikesh. Rishikesh is the world capital of yoga. It's become the world capital of yoga because it's such a spiritual place, because of the river Ganges, Mata Ganga being a goddess. Sadhus and rishis and saints throughout history have come here to worship Mata Ganga and to practice yoga on her banks. And that's exactly what we were doing. Being at this amazing holy place meant that our lives became yoga. Every conversation was yoga, every action was yoga. It really was the right decision to come there. We were doing yoga in the full moon. We even had a solar eclipse whilst we were here. We were doing, we dipped in the Ganges at 3 o'clock in the morning. We were doing so much stuff there. It was incredible, and it definitely started to feel like home. But the tests and exams were coming, and we were definitely feeling nervous, but we were also feeling very, very proud of how far we'd come. If they weren't willing to give us a qualification to say, a certification to say that we were qualified yoga teachers, it didn't matter, because how much we'd already achieved. We'd become different people. We practiced so hard. We'd given it absolutely everything. I'm very, very proud of ourselves. So the last week finally came. We were day in, day out, we were doing assessments on our ability on what yoga we've learned and ability to teach it. To be honest with you, we left each assessment feeling 50-50 about how well it went. As I said, we've done the best we can, and we just got through it and just kept on doing it. We got our head down, as grueling as it was. And then the second to last day, the penultimate day came of being and staying at the ashram, and it was the final written test. This test was quite intensive with regards to the questions that they were asking us about theoretical and practical yoga, and it wasn't something that Janine wasn't looking forward to in the slightest. Janine is not academic at all, and either way, just said, let's just go in there, let's just do it. Doesn't matter about the outcome, and we just do the best you can. Went in there, did it, came out, gave each other a big hug, congratulated each other, because that was the final thing that we had to do at the yoga school, and the rest, as they say, is up to the gods. The next day we woke up, and it would be the day of sort of big emotions. We would be the day we're leaving the yoga school and the closing ceremony. So once again, they got us to dress in white as we did on that very, very first day, and go up to the yoga hall and sit around that fire and conduct the rituals to close off our learning of yoga for the time being at the World Peace Yoga School. It was a very, very sad day for many, many reasons. I think for a lot of people because of how far we've come and the journey we've gone on. It's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, loads of downs in fact. We've learned so much about ourselves, our capabilities, and so much more had come out of us than we even knew about. And yeah, but alongside all of the tears and the laughter was some celebration, because a little bit of the way through the closing ceremony, they brought out the certificates, and lo and behold, there were 2 certificates in there with Liam Day and Janine Day's name written on them. We had passed and were qualified as bloody yoga teachers. 4 weeks ago, it was an idea. 4 weeks later, we were standing there in the foothills of the Himalayas, holding certificates in our hands, saying we were qualified to teach Kundalini yoga anywhere in the world. It was a very, very, very odd moment, and we were so, so proud of ourselves. Remember, this wasn't and isn't a YouTube challenge per se. We didn't do this for YouTube, we did this for ourselves, as we have done through all of our lives. Anything we can do to further ourselves, we will take. We just wanted to make this video to show you what we've been up to for the last 4 weeks, why we've been so quiet on social media. Our Instagram page has had nothing written on it for that amount of time. It has been brilliant, and we just wanted to show you what we've been up to, and hopefully it helps you understand a little bit more about us and the journey we've been on in India and doing yoga and now. And I'm sure all of you are now probably wondering, we've got this certificate, we've danced in that hall wearing white, celebrating the fact that we've got certificates and the month that we've just been through, all of the challenges we've faced. are we now going to become yoga teachers? And the answer to that is I don't know, to be honest with you. This wasn't something so that we could come out of it and teach yoga. We are definitely going to continue practicing Kundalini and Kriya Yoga. It's changing us for the better every single day, and we are loving it. We will not stop that journey. Will we become a yoga teacher? Who knows? Let's just see what the future brings. We live very, very much in the moment. Any chance we get to expand our awareness, we will take it 100%. Right now, we're just loving life, and we'll see what the future brings. 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were traveling around India, South India on a tuk-tuk. Now we're just about to drive to Delhi to catch a flight back to the UK as qualified yoga teachers. It's a funny old world, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching. And if you like the content, if you like our channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit a like on this video. And we'll see you next time as we leave India and we head back home to our camper van Morgan to once again start van life as yoga teachers.
Jai Jai Karunabhe Shri Mahadev Shambho 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 Shri Mahadev Shambho.
We wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun.